Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to some more Shadowverse Worlds Beyond. We are in the midst of all these reveals that are coming out, and even though we don't have them on the English side like the Western site for Shadowverse Worlds Beyond, some creators have put some, translating together to make it a bit easier. So hopefully we'll be able to access these very soon, but I just kind of wanted to get this news out for everyone because my favorite thing is talk about new cards, and Forestcraft has arrived. We're seeing our first reveals in terms of legendaries for Forestcraft, and it's a lot to get into because since they are kind of the deck to beat right now, the class to beat, I'm personally curious at how much more power they're potentially getting. But there's some other really interesting cards. There's a couple duds, I think, but I'm excited to get into it. And as always, if you like what you're seeing, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff. But let's just dive in. All right, first up for Forestcraft, we've got Titania, the Winged Queen here. It's a 4 play point for a 2/2, and when it comes into play with Fanfare, summon a fairy, gain a crest for Titania, and evolve, select an enemy follower on the field, transform it into a fairy. So, you're essentially getting 3 power across 2 bodies already, right, because you're getting that summon a fairy. When you evolve her into that 4/4, you're going to get to transform, one of their problematic followers into a 1/1 fairy. Really just nice interaction here. I think we think about how this deck plays out. Some of the better board interaction, right, comes from Glade the Air Freshener on 5. Having something a little bit earlier, or in addition to Glade, that interacts with the board in a favorable way so that you're not getting pressured and you can sort of keep accruing resources in your hand. Inherently seems like a powerful thing for Forestcraft to be getting. And then the crest, at the start of your turn, add a fairy to your hand. I mean, I think with Forestcraft, I'm kind of just laughing because they have such good card advantage, right? And they have so many ways to get fairies. But, getting even more of that, they're going to have to manage their hands properly. Like, I think that is a sort of a skill expression, but this card just has a million things happening for it. You're getting the crest up front. You're getting the fairy up front. That also has rush, right? Because fairies inherently have that. So you've got like a nice little body there. You've got the evolve trigger. This is doing so much already. I have to imagine this card is just going to see a ton of play. So get ready to deal with Roach and to deal with Titania, the Winged Queen. For the next Forestcraft reveal, my next trick, we've got Garden's Guidance. So 2 play points for a spell. It has fuse Forestcraft cards. My understanding of this is that you can just fuse it with any Forestcraft card. Follower, I think Amulet, like the draw card bounce thing, the staff, just anything. Fairies, obviously. And it says draw a card. So for 2 play points, draw a card, not very special. If this card is fused with at least 1 card, draw 2 cards instead. So 2 to draw 2 is just obviously a better rate than what we generally see in card games, which is almost always a minimum. You're paying 3 play points, mana, whatever it is. So 2 to draw 2, where you're already, this is even better when we're talking about Titania, right? And kind of managing your hand, getting those extra fairies. This helps you manage your hand immensely. Right, you can actually fuse multiple cards with this, right? So if there's a turn where you really want to make sure you're at 8 or maybe even 7 with the staff online so that you can draw your additional card per turn, you're digging for your Roach, right? And you've just got kind of all of this extra fodder in your hand. I'm usually in those matchups tracking how many fairies they've generated. This will make it harder and more interesting because then they can just jam a fairy or 2 into this and keep digging for the other tools that they need. So I think this is a surprisingly important and powerful card for even more smoothing out this very, very potent class in this very powerful deck. So I think Garden's Guidance is a really scary card, and I'm already looking to maybe start learning and picking up Forestcraft very, very soon. Next up, we've got a Dragoncraft spell. This is Draconic Strike, and it's 6 energy. Choose a card in your hand, reduce its cost by 2. Deal 3 damage to all enemy followers. So if we think about the 6 slot, and I think this is for the ramp deck, right? You have the Calamity 6-drop, which I think deals 5 damage to everything, and that doesn't really see any play. This is, I think, a little bit better in the sense that 3 damage to all enemy followers is usually going to be pretty helpful at, you know, the 5 play point, 6 play point range. Getting to reduce the cost of something by 2, if you were able to pressure even a little bit earlier, might mean that you've got a big dumb dragon or Garyu or something coming down ahead of schedule. I still just don't think that that's great. I could be wrong. We'll see if maybe this actually, you know, fits in nicely with the dragon ramp strategy, but I really doubt it. I think you'd have to see a cost reduction, although cost reduction is insanely powerful in almost every single card game ever. And I should be thinking about that a little bit more. I just, with how easy it is to punish clunky draws in this game when you're playing some of the best aggressive strategies, this just has clunk written all over it. Though it offers kind of what you're looking for from a spell like this. I think if it did maybe 4 or 5 to all enemy followers and you got the cost reduction, now we'd be talking. But 3 will miss out on certain boards that have snowballed. And a cost reduction of 2, right, on 7 energy. I guess you're basically hoping to hit your 9-drop dragon that wipes the board. So it's sort of weird because you'd be like trying to wipe the board on 6 and then trying to wipe the board on 7. You can already wipe the board with Burnite on 7 if you're playing Dragon Ramp. So I'm just not really sure what this is supposed to do other than kind of smooth your prior to 10 point turns a little bit. But I'd be kind of surprised if this does that much work. But we'll see. We'll see what, you know, the Draconic Strike has in store. And next up, we've got another Runecraft reveal here, specifically for Earthright, and that is Pascal's Dance. So it's 2 play points, gain an Earth Sigil up front, gain a crest, Pascal's Dance. The crest is countdown 1. At the end of your turn, draw a card. I mean, drawing an extra card per turn as Rune, I imagine, is helpful in kind of smoothing out what they're doing and you know, allowing for them to navigate the early game, especially if you start out with this in your hand, a little bit better. This later in the game is going to be kind of clunky. It is a spell, so it'll spell boost everything else. It's relatively cheap. It's gonna replace itself that end of your turn, and then it's got this clause, Earthright 10. Double the attack and defense of all allied followers on the field. So we saw the Anathema of Audacity in my last video in the first reveals, and it's clear that card is a little bit niche. I guess the sort of living the dream is like you've got that rolling, but Earthright 10 is a lot, especially when you're using it as a resource, which the Earthright decks are trying to do. It makes sense that this kind of card is modal. It like does something early, it does something late. That's pretty cool. You probably would only run like 2 of these in the deck. I really don't think you would run 3 because when you draw it in multiples, it's like really not that great because you can only get the 1 crest. But maybe I'll be surprised. Maybe this is what some of the Earthright decks need, or even the Spell Boost decks, getting an extra draw every turn. Maybe that's good enough for them. It seems kind of middle of the road in terms of like synergy and power. It seems a little bit like we're living the dream if we're hitting 10 Earthright and can afford to do that. But maybe I'll be surprised. So, you know, between Draconic Strike and Pascal's Dance, I'm a little skeptical of these cards, whereas the Forestcraft cards seem to slot in very nicely. But like I said, we'll see what comes for Runecraft and all of the classes very soon. All right, folks, buckle up. This card is something. So this is Yurius, Leven Transcender. It is 8 play points for a 5/7 body. When it comes into play, summon 2 enemy knights on your opponent's field. And he has, whenever an enemy follower enters the field, until the end of your opponent's turn, give it the following effect. Can't attack. Deal 1 damage to the enemy leader and restore 1 defense to your leader. So as some other great content creators, I want to shout out Prussia, who watched their video this morning, just to wrap my head around some of these cards too. I've been playing Shadowverse for a long time. Great creator, so feel free to go check him out. when this comes into play, you're going to make 2 things on their side of the field. They're going to take 2, you're going to gain 2. Those 2 things can't attack. This coming into an open board against your opponent is a really obnoxious thing, right? You have to hard remove this, right? Because Orcus comes into play, great. None of your stuff attacks, right? You know, your big Titan comes into play, can't attack, right? So this card is really, really scary. It also does something that I've actually even talked about some of my Swordcraft gameplay, where sometimes you actually want your opponent's board to get locked up in the late game, because a lot of the times they're trying to set up a ward or trying to set up, you know, some sort of defenses. And if you kind of let them develop some certain stuff and you just catch them at a really important point for lethal, where they just like don't have enough room on the board to add a ward card and you're not dead yet, it's actually super annoying. And this card basically says whatever you play doesn't matter. I've played some other card games. One I played recently was Dragon Ball Fusion World, and there's a card that essentially says like whenever you play a card and everything can attack the turn it's played in Fusion World, it comes in tapped, right? So this is kind of like the same thing, right? Where it's like basically you're playing those cards and they do nothing. Now Ward still has value because it's a blocker, right? Lloyd could still, you know, tussle with something that's coming into play the next turn. But they're also taking damage for playing stuff, right? So it's like Puppets isn't going to like this. You know, some of the other go wide strategies, you know, locking up Forestcraft, right? This Swordcraft card is definitely going to see a ton of play. It's going to make mid-range sword, which I think is a little less good for the meta than the Tempo Kage one that I've been playing, just from my experience so far. This is going to put mid-range sword, I think, above that. Because the aggro sword doesn't really want to play a card like this. Maybe it will, actually. I mean, maybe you play 1 or 2. But mid-range sword is going to love this card because they just have so much card advantage already. So yeah, I think Yurius is quite the card, and I'll be surprised if I'm wrong about that. And for our last card today, we've got a 2-parter here with Prim, the holidaying princess. Love it. She's on her holiday in the woods somewhere. That's kind of my dream holiday too. So 2 play points for a 1/1. When it comes into play, it's going to add the Silent Maid into your hand, which we'll take a look at in a second. And it's got ambush, so it's you get to play this potentially on your first turn or your second turn. It's got ambush, and I know definitely from sort of the aggro sword stuff that I've been doing lately, and I'll be putting out that video very soon, but definitely want to talk about the reveals. Ambush in Swordcraft aggro is really, really relevant. So let's see what the other side is. So it's a 2/2, and if 2/2 for 2. So you would play this like the following turn, or I guess on a 4-point turn you could do both. If an allied Prim holidaying princess is on the field, and most likely it will be because it's got ambush, this gets +1/+1 Bane, and also it has ward inherently. So for 4 play points, you're getting 4 power across 2 bodies, and one of them has Bane and ward, which is definitely very annoying for all those who have had to deal with Lloyd. And just the fact that you get this like free 2-drop is really nice. I mean, the deck already, the one I've been running, right? You've got the Coach Woman on 2. You've got the sort of reactive 2/1 Samurai, which is just like one of my favorite cards actually in the game. I'm excited to do more content around my favorite cards as well, outside of the most powerful. You've got the 1/2 that makes another 1/1, which is an excellent card too. I imagine this is going to take up one of those slots, because the fact that you can chain them together, you know, turn 1, turn 2, if you're going second, even on 3 or 4 play points, sometimes you don't want to play into certain things that your opponents have, especially on the aggro variant, and then you kind of choose when you want to do it. You get to set up damage with Prim, which could get pumped from, Zirconia or other cards, so that you get that guaranteed damage as well. I feel like this card, for the Holidaying Princess and her Silent Maid here, is really well placed for particularly Swordcraft aggro, and maybe it'll also make it into mid-range because it's got ward as well, which is pretty cool. And having Bane is pretty nice in an aggro deck as well. So yeah, I mean, I think we got a couple pretty big wins for Swordcraft today in the reveals. So that is very exciting for me. Okay, everybody, that's what I got for you today. Definitely stay tuned to the channel for more and more reveals. I am going to be away for a couple of days. I'll see if I can get some of those reveals up there, or at least post about them, because I definitely want to keep the discussion going and hearing what your thoughts are. We got some really heavy hitters, I think, in Forestcraft today, as well as Swordcraft, and then basically kind of like two questionable niche cards, one for Dragoncraft, one for Rune. And then I guess at some point we'll start seeing Portal as well. So very exciting stuff. Lots of news to come. I'll also be putting up some other content as well once we get through the bulk of the reveals. So stay tuned. And as always, I will catch you next time.